Hey guys, what's up? So, this is going to be my first video on my booktube channel. I just wanted to share with you my favorite books of 2019. So, the first book that I am going to put on my best books of 2019 is Sadie by Courtney Summers. This book caught me kind of by surprise because it was super hyped on BookTube. And most of the time when something is super hyped, I don't like it, or it just makes me lose interest in something. But I found this to have price books and I was like, I really am interested in it. I like the podcast type of books, so I gave it a shot, and oh my gosh, this book is so incredible. I can't say much about it because then it will spoil things, but it's about a girl who loses her sister, and her mother is kind of terrible. she's a deadbeat mother, so she goes on this adventure to find her dad and to find justice for her little sister, and it's so good. The next book, I'm really excited. Okay, so the next book that is probably my second favorite book that I read this year, and I was a little surprised because it's a John Green book, and whenever I was younger, I loved Fault in Our Stars. I reread it probably about 2 years ago. Did not like it, but I loved it at the time that I read it. I also really, really love Paper Towns, so John Green's kind of a hit or miss for me because I really didn't like Looking for Alaska. Not good, but I know that's very controversial. But the one that I read this year that I got whenever it first came out, I got a signed copy whenever it first came out, and it took me forever to finally pick it up. But it was also because I was away at college, so I didn't really want to bring it with me whenever I went back. But this is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, and it is so good. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I was expecting to like it decently, but it just represents like OCD so well. And it's a cute adventure story. I wouldn't say cute, but it's an adventure story. It has a hint of detective and mystery, and it's just a wonderful book. If anyone's going to start reading John Green, I would advise this one, because I think it has a lot more dimension than most of his other books. Paper Towns is really, really good. I really like it. But I think this one, his characters have evolved a lot more. But my third favorite book of 2019 is, well, these are in no particular order actually, but is The Disreputable History of Frankie Lindaubanks. I could be saying that wrong, but by E. Lockhart. She has 2 books on here actually. But this book, this has been sitting on my shelf for like 6 years. It is so good though. I love the feminist themes in here. I love Frankie. A lot of people have a lot of different feelings about this, but I fell in love with it. This was on my shelf before I read We Were Liars. We Were Liars is one of my favorite books. And so I just love E. Lockhart so much. Another E. Lockhart book that I read this year that I was very hesitant about because the reviews were very one way. You either loved it or you hated it. And that is, I'll put it up on the screen, Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. That one was so good. I wasn't expecting to like it really because people said it was confusing, but then I also thought, well, We Were Liars was kind of confusing and it had Big End, and so does Genuine Fraud. It's kind of hard to explain without it literally telling you what happens. So it's just basically about this girl who one of her friends goes missing / dead, and it's just a wild ride. My next pick for favorite books is Moxie by Jennifer Matheo. I could be saying that wrong, but oh my god. Also the feminist themes in this book. Also really like feminist themes in books, if you can't tell. But this is so wonderful. It's about a girl who she's sick of guys treating the girls terribly in her high school, so she creates Moxie because her mom was a Moxie girl and when she was younger, so it's just her carrying on the legacy, and she gets a bunch of the girls to go along with it, and she gets a magazine. It's just so much perfection. I know Emma Books loves this book, and so I saw her rate it or talk about it, and I was like, you know, that sounds like something that I'd like. And I found it at Half Price Books, picked it up, I read it basically immediately when I got home, and oh my, it is incredible. If you like books with about set in high school or feminist themes within it, oh, you'll love it. It's fantastic. And then the last book it was my first 5-star read this year, and I also was a little hesitant to read it because it's a booktube fave, and I was like, listen, this has been hyped and I feel like this is gonna fail. Which, whenever I do my worst books of 2019, you'll see what I mean by hyped books that failed terribly, for me at least. But this one, oh, it was wonderful. It's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It has diversity, it's about Hollywood. I love a good Hollywood book. So it's about Evelyn Hugo, and she's telling her story of her 7 husbands. Really don't want to give way too much away because it's absolutely, like, if you go in not knowing that much, which I did, I only knew that it had LGBTQ representation and that it was about Hollywood, and I was like, okay, I'm going in. And I read it so fast, and I need to get a copy of it because that is probably one of my favorite books of all time. Like, it's up there with The Book Thief. Like, it's so good. It is amazing. Yeah. So that's my best books of 2019. Look out for a worst books of 2019 if you want to know my thoughts on some of the other books that I read this year. And then I'll also be doing a reading vlog